Aloha, this is your astrologer Tom, and in this video, I want to talk about the nodes and the nodal paths. And stick around because I'm going to explain why I believe there to be 24 nodal paths instead of just 12. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the south node, and the south node. There's a couple of different schools of thought. Some schools of thought talk about the south node as being something that we need to kind of just be free of this lifetime. And others talk about it as something to build off of. And I'd like to kind of blend them together a little bit. The South Node can appear very comfortable and very familiar, and yet it may not actually be fulfilling. So if you've ever come across somebody who's like, or you notice somebody who's really good at what they do, but they're like, I don't actually get enjoyment out of this. Yeah, I'm really good at it, but it doesn't really fulfill me. Could be a South Node energy. Could be a South Node energy. South Node can appear very comfortable, very familiar, and the energy desires to move towards the North Node. It doesn't want to pull at the South Node. It wants to gain the benefits of the North Node. Some astrologers like to consider the South Node to North Node as like an arrow through the chart. I think there's benefits, as I'll show you in the talk about in the nodal path. I think there's benefits to doing something with the North Node energy after we activate it. The South Node very much can appear to be a strength and where your stuff's together. It's very familiar. Too much of its activation can actually lead to an unfulfilling path because you need to actually get to the North Node. You need to be able to blend that energy. So then, what is the North Node? Well, the North Node can appear less comfortable to a point where it's not what you want to do. It can appear like it's not actually, it's just not comfortable. It's like not the direction that you want to go. And yet the North Node energy is what brings fulfillment to the South. So the North Node is like you're always being tugged in that direction. There's no arrival at the North Node. There's a cycle, as we'll talk about. And contrasting this to, if you've been following me for quite some time, contrast this to Sun, Moon, and Ascendant, where we blend. So we blend Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Uh, Chiron kind of flips from the metaphorical wounded side to the healing side. The North Node, this is very much a cycle, very much a continuance. Not activating the North Node can be a reason why that you don't do what you need to do for growth and you just do what you want to do for comfort. So one way of getting outside of your comfort zone can be to tap into the North Node. And the interesting thing is the fulfillment that comes with doing that. And the process that I help clients go through is this nodal path process. The south node to north node is like an arrow in the chart showing a way to go. And yet the path is launching off our south node, our soul's foundation, moving in the direction of the north node. And then what we have to do, which is not often talked about, is we have to grab the lessons from the north node, bring them to the south node and blend them. It elevates our south node energy. By doing this, our soul gets to grow and evolve from lifetime to lifetime. It creates a cycle, and it's like kind of putting two different like ingredients together to bake a cake, right? The ingredients by themselves don't really form much, but we go and we get another ingredient, we bring it into the recipe, helps us out. The awareness of the north node starts with the south node. So sometimes people are like, well, can I just do the north node? Like, can I just actually just do the lessons of the north node? For a lot of people, the north node, because it feels can feel very uncomfortable, can feel out of reach. It's often not that easy to connect directly to it. And so what happens is by being aware of the south node energy, you're actually then a path is evident that for how to get to the north node. Doesn't mean it'll still be comfortable, but at least you know the direction to go, right? So the north node can appear unfamiliar if the south node isn't conscious, or if the south node is out of harmony. There's too much or too little of it at play. So an example of this is, let's say you have the south node in Libra, north node in Aries. Well, south node in Libra, north node in Aries, the partnerships can become very familiar. And yet what you're doing is you're finding yourself in situations where you have to do what's right for you. You have to identify what makes you the individual, right? So north node in Aries is much more the individual. And it's not just stopping there. It's okay, well, if you're learning how to, identify what it is that's you got to bring that in then to the South Node in Libra into the relationship, right? So there's still a partnership because sometimes people see South Node in Libra, North Node in Aries, and they go, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be in a relationship because it's saying I should be more me. No, no, no. It's saying in a relationship, identify who you are and then bring that in to the relationship. South node to north node, back to south, elevate the south. Okay. And so that's one example. So now let me tell you why I think there's really 24 paths instead of 12, because we factor in internal to external and external to internal. So if your south node is in houses 1 through 6, and therefore your north node is in houses 7 through 12, it's as if you're going internal to external. You're going from within to out in the world. If your south node is in 7 through 12 and your north node is in 1 through 6, it's like you're going from out in the world to within. What does that mean practically? Well, people who have an external to internal nodal path, they'll find themselves mainly in the world, in external situations, and then they have to bring those lessons within to then help them be better out in the world. Those who have an internal to external path, they find themselves more in their mind, in their own reality, in their own world, and then they have to put themselves in situations that go out into the world, and then from those lessons, they learn more about who they are inside. So it's actually very, very different. So you could have two people who could have South Node in Libra, North Node in Aries, but if one is going internal to external and the other one's going external to internal, they're very different paths. So a South Node in Aries going internal to external, they're finding, sorry, a South Node in Libra going to a North Node in Aries externally is finding themselves in situations in the outer world that help them find out who they are, and then they come back into the relationship and more internally, right, to grow and evolve. The other situation where you have South Node in Libra out in the world would then find themselves in situations where they have to do things within. They have to take care of the things that are more what makes them an individual, and then that allows them, or elevates them to going out in the world in a much more elevated way. So, I actually do break down all of these the different nodal paths a bit in my nodal path course. I'll leave a link in the description below if that's something that you're interested in. I went through this pretty quickly, but to give you some ideas to what my philosophy is on the nodal path, it is a very passionate topic of mine. I did my um, final project in my astro certification and all sorts of things that come with it through the nodal path. So if you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, aloha, hui ho. I'll talk with you again soon. Take care.